Hey guys, spring is here. I know a lot of you are going to be looking at buying used electric scooters, probably from Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and I just want to talk to you guys about used electric scooters in the market, things that you should look for, and how much you should pay for it. I've sold a lot of electric scooters over the last couple of years, just ones that I've used for a few hundred miles or even a few thousand miles, and I sort of have a good idea of what a scooter is worth. As long as it is well maintained, a scooter holds its value pretty well. If it's not maintained well, you will end up with a worthless paperweight. So it's important to put in some money as you go along, and you will end up getting most of that money back out. Let's start with when you first look at an ad. You're going to ask a series of questions just to make sure it's something that you're interested in. This is the type of questions I would ask. You can go ahead and pause the screen here. I'm not going to go into in depth. Dealing with Facebook Marketplace can be kind of annoying, but eventually you'll find a scooter that you like, and when you go to check it out, that's what we're going to talk about. When you first get to the scooter, obviously you're going to be excited. It looks great, but you need to check a few serious things before you just fork over the money and buy it. First of all, obviously power the scooter on. Make sure that the screen is working. Make sure that it cycles through all the gears. Typically, there's 3 gears on every scooter. Make sure that your battery voltage is at an acceptable range. This one's at 100% here, 53.5. Every battery for a scooter is going to have a different voltage. There's going to be either 48, 52, 60, or 72 volt scooters. And you're going to want to know beforehand what your battery should be at. I'll flash a chart on the screen here. If you're not familiar with batteries, every battery has a different full and empty level, and it's the voltage that you want to pay attention to. You want to make sure that your battery is at a reasonable state for where it should be. Next, you're going to want to make sure all the lights work. Usually there's going to be a headlight button, or you're going to hold the button here. You're going to hold that. You're going to check the lights, see that everything is functioning like it should be on the scooter. Do the tail lights work and things like that. Doing just a once over on the scooter. Now your biggest expense on the scooter is going to be the battery. So you really want to make sure that you're going to give it a test ride, make sure all the power feels good, but we're not going to do that yet. First, you're going to want to check the structural integrity of the scooter. Just look around, make sure that it doesn't look like there's anything missing as far as bolts, right? These axle nuts should be very tight. Everything should look clean. It's going to be obvious a lot of times if there was a wreck. This will be scratched up, or there's going to be scratches along the swing arm here or even on the side. You'll be able to tell if the scooter's been through a lot. On a lot of these scooters, you're dealing with dual motors and you're dealing with disc brakes. And these disc brakes will be the first thing that wears out over time. So what you're going to want to do is bring almost like a bucket, or what I have here is a stand in the garage I'll get out. Bring something as simple as a bucket, and what you want to do is set the scooter up on it, get the wheels off the ground, and then once you've got your scooter lifted up, now you're going to kind of test everything with the weight off the wheels. This is called freewheeling. We're going to come up here, testing gear 1, 16 miles an hour, gear 2, gear 3. Make sure the thing's running at full speed. Make sure both motors are spinning, everything looks good. Once it's done spinning, don't hurt yourself. You're gonna just turn it with your hand, listen for a lot of wear here. So these rotors will get very bent, and if you hear sort of rubbing when you spin this is gonna need to be replaced pretty soon, probably the brake pads. A lot of these scooters, you're gonna get about 500 miles, maybe 1,000 at best out of the brake pads, and then you're gonna need to change the pads. The rotor, you're usually gonna get a bit more, and you're usually gonna be able to look at the rotor and see how much thinner it is. On this part that has wear, right, where the pads make contact, the scooter has barely even any mileage here, maybe 100 miles, so this is basically no wear on it yet. But you will see as the rotor gets worn down more, maybe 1,000 miles, it'll get thinner, right, and eventually you'll have to replace that. Replace the pads. There's a little bit of maintenance that you're going to need to do. The other thing, you need to check the tires. It's a little harder on a scooter like this with this type of mud guards, but you need to check the tread. How much tread there is, right? And the tread specifically in the middle of the tire. I'll show you over here. For example, here's the back tire of my VSET 10 Plus. It's about 800 miles on this. You can see there's still quite a bit of tread there, plenty of depth. As we move over here, this is the Mikata 10 Plus I have, has about 1,300 miles on it. We're starting to lose a lot of that tread here, right? It's getting a lot balder, and it's getting almost time to change these tires. You got to pay attention to the tires and the brakes, guys, when you're looking at these used scooters. Those are the main maintenance items, and the tires can get expensive. The tire changes can get expensive. It's time consuming. If you're going to do it yourself, it's a couple hours. It's something that you should look at for sure before you buy the scooter. Make sure you know where you are at with the maintenance schedule with the tires and the brakes. Now, assuming you checked everything on the scooter and it's looking pretty good, not a huge amount of blemishes or problems, you know, the type of things that don't look like they should be there, you know. This one has some glue on it that came from the factory. Not even my fault, but it's going to maybe diminish the price $20 when I go to sell it if the guy notices it. Stuff like that. You can easily talk people down if there's a lot of blemishes on the scooter. Save yourself a little money. Now, assuming it all ran great on the stand, the structural integrity seems right, you're going to want to give it some strong pulls like this. Pull forward, backward, make sure the folding mechanism seems good to go. Before you buy the scooter, you want to unfold it, fold it back, make sure that everything is working here perfectly and it's tight. You want a tight stem, tight folding mechanism, so there's no play that develops over time. That will end up costing you more parts you need to replace later if you don't keep this tight. Now, when you get to go on your actual test ride, you're going on a ride in all 3 gears and in dual motor, single motor. Test out that it's all working as it should. Before you buy a scooter, maybe do a little YouTube research and figure out how the scooter works, and so you know exactly what you're looking at when you get into this. A lot of this info is available online on YouTube videos and reviews and stuff. A lot of these, for example, maybe 5 different scooter brands use this type of throttle, so it's readily available information on the settings and everything, how this works. But when you're out doing your test ride, make sure you give it some good rips in an alley or somewhere safe. Bring your helmet. If you're going to do it, give it first gear, second, third gear, single motor, dual motor. Test out the brakes. Make sure the scooter feels safe. If the scooter feels safe, go ahead and make the guy an offer. Usually what I've been selling these used scooters for, if it has very light use, maybe a couple 100 miles or less, you can usually get about 80% of what retail price is. As soon as you get up to 1,000 miles or so, you're down to 70% retail price. And then down to 50 or 60% at 2,000 miles. Even 3,000 miles, you could still maybe get half the value of your scooter back. That's like riding 2 full seasons pretty heavily. So it's crazy how the value can hold. I've sold scooters with 4,000 miles that were still worth over half of what I paid for them. And the battery itself holds a lot of value. And because a lot of these parts all across this can be replaced for really cheap, if something happens, you break something, you wreck, the battery is the majority of the value and is sort of protected inside. These are rated for about 500 charge cycles if you don't know. So safe to say for a scooter like this, if you get a 15-mile range at 500 cycles, that's about 7,500 miles that the battery could give you before it starts seeing degradation. So that amount of miles is more than most people ever drive on these. That's like 7-8 years worth. If you see a scooter on Facebook Marketplace, you think it's a decent deal, go check it out. Make sure everything looks straight up like we talked about. Make an offer. If you get it for 75% of retail or so, it's a solid scooter with low miles. That's a great deal. I think it's a great way for people to get into the scooter game. This year especially, there's a lot of people I know selling used scooters. This $1,000 scooter right here, even M10, if you can get it for $750, $700 slightly used, that's a killer deal. So check out used scooters in your market. You don't even know what's out there until you look. You got any other questions? Let me know in the comments.